Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
And we hope everybody had a great Turkey Day.
Yes, happy Turkey Day. It's over.
A day for Thanksgiving, a day for just saying thank you that we are all able to, those of us that can, see some family, see some friends. Mm-hmm. If not in person, then, send some love out to others.
And just spend time being thankful. That's the bigger picture. I understand the holiday is a little bit astray, from the real meaning. But if we want to cherry pick from things, what we choose, we can cherry pick that gratitude of everything.
Yes. And, I left it there on the OBS for a while because I was just staring at my wife. and thinking of how much gratitude I have to, be able to spend so much time with her. It's such a blessing. And, it's a blessing to have your best friend be your partner. It truly is a blessing.
It is. It's super wonderful.
One thing that's not really a blessing is the whole system, the whole matrix that we have. Even those that are in that classification that we might say, well, that person is a have and not a have not. Maybe they're not just fully recognizing how we really are slaves to the system. And here we see out of CNBC, Dow tumbles 900 points for the worst day of the year on fears of the new plague upon the land variant. And Standard & Poor's 500 drops 2%. As you can see, everything's in the red, big time red. And, again, whoever thought that the Dow would get to be up at 34,899? I remember when it was, not even in 5 digits. Mm-hmm. So everything is relative. And yet, the Dow's up at this amazing number. And yet, how much better off is the majority of society?
I know. We really have to take a close look at that. That's very, very important.
So why do we get excited when, the haves just keep having more and more and more? As since this plague upon the land started, the consolidation of wealth has just increased dramatically, staggeringly.
Well, I think, growing up, they tried to ingrain it in people that those that have wealth, it will trickle down. It's like they try to ingrain that in us.
Yeah, Reaganomics, trickle down theory. Yeah, trickles down, raging torrent, and then you're lucky if you get a drop.
You are. Drop in the bucket.
Exactly. As you see, down 2.53%. And, again, on what? Well, fears. Fear is the great enemy. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. Right. Now, that sounded more like the Terminator than Winston Churchill. But
we know what you mean.
Yes. And so the WHO, who? The WHO. Who are they really? Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're going to skip that one.
Who are they?
Mm-hmm. Who does number 2 work for?
Oh, no. Here we
Sorry.
Go.
Okay. We had to revisit that yesterday with a youngster.
Oh, it was
a 2-year-old toddler.
It was so cute.
Yes.
Yep.
He was having some trouble trying to get number 2 under control, if you know what we mean.
Yeah, poor little guy.
So think about this. They've named this Omicron. Now, I went off on a little bit of a tangent, which I will be sharing with you guys. And it might have nothing to do about nothing, but something tells me there's something to it. As, we're seeing a little guy, speaking of little guys, doing the owie sign. Wow. And, this variant has popped up. If you look at Africa has amazingly escaped so much of this plague upon the land. And, it's up to everybody to do their own research, come to their own conclusions. We know people are, we have people that we know. I mean, it seems like they spend 16 hours a day. That's all they do is research the plague upon the land.
Yeah.
And, go over it time and time and time again. So this new one is first detected in South Africa. It's highly transmissible, they say. And they're naming it Omicron under its Greek letter system. And they also have another term for it, B 1.1.1.529. And, you know, you could go into that and add it all up, and it adds up to a 9. So 9 is conclusions.
Completion, yep.
Completion, conclusions. Interesting. You know, they think it's a much higher risk than the Delta variant, which was first detected in India. And, you know, Cindy was getting the impression of a conveyor belt.
I was, you know, and this is one of those things that's on a conveyor belt. There's more than this one, but this is one that just dropped off the conveyor belt. And then we looked a little deeper.
Yes, and I'm going to be sharing that with you guys right now as I rearrange things. So, you know, we know it's, again, coming out of their Greek alphabet, so to speak. In astronomy, Omicron is used to designate the 15th star in a constellation group, its original placement, an irregular function of both magnitude and position. And so it gives you examples. So automatically I think about the Draco star cluster, you know, for obvious reasons for those of you that follow the channel on a regular basis. The Draco constellation contains 17 formally named stars. So when we go on down the line, you know, we see Teyi is actually the 15th as far as the name. And it's interesting. It means the big one.
Yeah, the big one.
So means the big one. Or it could mean the great unity. And there was a Chinese ruler that ruled for a very long time until the famous Jade Emperor came on the scene. And so yeah, it's just kind of curious. You know, supreme sky god of ancient China, the big one. Omicron. So is Omicron the big one? Now, you know, initially when I asked Cindy that, she didn't get that impression, though.
No, I didn't get that impression. I got it that it's definitely one, and it's definitely another step to more to come, but it wasn't the one. But I like when I do look at it, they're showing me like this is the beginning of something much bigger. It is the beginning of something much bigger.
Yeah. And we've been, as well as many other people, have had the same visions, the same dreams, gotten the same thing that we have. That the thing that you're going to really want to just sort of stay in and, you know, bar the doors and just hunker down. It's going to look a lot more like what we see happen over in Africa with a certain disease that starts with an E, ends with an A. I'm sure you guys, most of you guys understand. It's going to look more like that. That's the thing that we just, at that point in time, you know, you just hunker down for real and be very, very, very careful. Not that we shouldn't all be careful now.
Right.
And we see 46 confirms new travel bans again from South Africa and 7 other countries.
Yeah, so we're looking at these again, and we always have to ask ourselves why, you know, exactly why and what control mechanism is being put into place while we have these things, and is there anything to it? So that's what I ask myself. You know, I have to go through all these questions to myself, asking myself, okay, why are they doing this? Because it's never what the headlines say. It's never what the headlines say. It's always something deeper, something intrusive, and something to take your rights away.
As we see, China launches combat readiness drill again. I mean, these drills are nonstop now. It's been this way for like 18 months, it feels like. Over a year for sure. Near Taiwan, as U.S. delegation arrives to the island for the 2nd time this month.
Yeah, that's another thing that we're keeping an eye on too. And it's like, you know, I always wonder, is this the time? You know, can things get peaked any more than this? And it's like I almost say that on a daily basis, but it's true. It's like, what's going to tip everything? What's going to break the straw on the camel's back? It's going to happen. It's inevitable.
And this is a massive drone. It's a drone with like a 80-foot wingspan that's being put into into use now. And of course, this is also from the fine dining ware country, and it's called Soar Dragon. Draco. You know, you can see how these things all go together. Like we were talking about the satellite that Noah uses, Enlil. Okay. It's so clear. It's right in our faces. And power certainly has shifted to the Find Anywhere country. The real power that's been on this planet is totally behind making the, well, PCC, put it to a mirror, system a global one. This is what they want for the whole globe. They're totally behind it. That's why they keep coming out with all these new technological advances, which even U.S. generals say, holy crap.
Yeah.
How do they have that? Well, because the real power brokers are making it so. You know, they're making it happen. Snappy.
Yes, they're calling the shots.
As we see, NATO chief warns Russia on troop buildup. And of course, we're talking about the Ukrainian situation. The U.S., meanwhile, says all options are on the table. That's pretty open. That's pretty ominous, too. You know, all options on the table over the Russian troop buildup that we've been talking about near the Ukraine. And of course, you have the Ukraine and you have Taiwan, and there you go. It's just, you know, a two-front situation right off the bat. Meanwhile, Ukraine says it's ready to defend itself against Russia, and, you know, just ominous signs all around. Interesting, and we're going to get to it, as far as the timing. When will that timing be? And meanwhile, Ukraine's Zelensky alleges Russia is plotting a coup against him for the upcoming week. And this is Ukrainian president, by the way. Well, you know, mud could help decide the timing for a Russian move, as, you know, muddy terrain and a need for more troops could determine, you know, when this would get started. So some analysts are saying it probably wouldn't happen until January at the earliest, and there's been more than one person that I know that said they'll wait for the Olympics to be done. And some have even said it has something to do with the Nostradamus quatrain, about, you know, the games of slaughter and stuff, and looking at it as being perhaps tied to the Olympics as well.
Could very well be. Yep.
Yeah, and we have some info that we'll be doing about Nostradamus in an upcoming video that we've gotten from the guys as to, you know, who was he really? Because I've always had my suspicions about him, being that he's such a supporter of the church.
This is one of those times where I'm curious too, because I don't remember.
See, she was, you know, in full trance channel mode, so she doesn't remember the conversations. But yeah, interesting stuff. So we see civil unrest rocks Solomon Islands as rioters torch. Yes, torch certain buildings. And Australia says it's going to deploy more than 100 police and military personnel to the Solomon Islands as protesters there are in defiance and have actually set buildings afire. And when we look over here, we see over in the beautiful Caribbean island of Martinique and Guadeloupe, of which, you know, I have been able to be in them, and the beautiful, beautiful places. People always seem so friendly too. They are friendly. They've overcome, at least temporarily, one of those dates for men. Now, France is in control of these islands, and there was tremendous unrest there as well. And timelines got changed. Timelines are changing, guys. This is what we want to, you know, get across to you. From what we have gotten, you could claim, you know, great victory in some ways, because our efforts, our concerted efforts, everyone's concerted efforts, are making a difference. And the timelines are changing. We're gaining time in one sense, which is great because it gives us time to wake up others, time to really transform the world. and awakens the people that we need to awaken to the bigger picture. What's really going on here? What is really going on here? You know, think and search within before you really, really act. We can change timelines. We really, really can. And so, you know, the thing that looks like it's looming on the horizon, something they've always had planned. Again, we go back to the famous statement by Albert, Pike, in 1871, that they have 3 great global conflagrations planned. And you could look to Nostradamus' prophecies, because he confirms this. And in fact, he even talks about a worldwide revolution. And simultaneously, a worldwide conflagration, just like the 2 previous ones in the previous century. He says both will be going on at the same time.
And we're looking at these things like Pluto return, and we're looking at all these star maps that are showing us that times are definitely changing, and they've proven to be huge changes in the past, time and time again. And here we are. We're at that moment where we have enough momentum, we have enough light where we can actually make things tip in our favor, and we have been.
Absolutely. So, you know, being that we covered all this so quickly, I'll go into a little bit on the Nostradamus thing. He is currently not in incarnation. He hasn't come back since, you know, his life as Nostradamus. As you know, you guys know, reincarnation is a reality, and every system besides the controller systems know this and have said this. But he won't return until approximately about the same position in the next Kali Yuga. Why? Because that's his job, so to speak. You know, yes, he was under the controller's power, and his prophecies are about planting seeds. But on some level, you know, his soul is also perhaps remorseful of the, you know, being used by the controllers. So there again, you have your hints about certain things that are going to come about because it's part of the script. It's not that it's written into stone by any, well, not by source. Source allows free will, and that's why we have all this going on. And I've had people say, well, if source allows free will, then how come the dark ones are allowed to do what they do to us? Well, because it's all free will. So the dark one's choice is to persecute you, and you know, look at you as a possession, as a slave, as part of a herd that they could call whenever they want to call. You know, so that's part of this free will universe. And okay, the guy, what are the guides saying? I just got a big rush through the crown chakra. I don't know if you're picking up on anything.
No, I get too nervous when I'm like actually making a video. It's really difficult for me. So I would have to wait and rewind and look and see what's going on there. So I think what they're just basically telling you, that's how I get confirmations. They'll do something to really get my attention. They're like, yes, move into that. So,
you know, look for things like that. Now, I know they're telling me something because all of a sudden there's a rush of energy through my crown chakra. And I could not make out exactly what they're saying, but I could feel they're talking and they're excited. And so then I have to just take a step back and just see what impressions come through. So this is how you could develop your rapport with your guides. This is what they want me to tell you. Everybody's a little different, and it comes in stages. For me, before, it would be a rush of like a feeling of tiredness, and so I'd either lay down or I would just sit down, clear my mind, and see what came. And usually I would get pictures. I would see things like I'm watching the news and know kind of like what they're telling me, you know, whether it was going to be a plane crash or, you know, something else, a storm, a hurricane, whatever it is. I would see pictures almost like you're watching a TV that would come through. Now it's changing in that I'll still get that, but then I get things more like Cindy-ish now, and I think maybe even just because we are so close and so intermeshed.
Yeah, he reads the antenna.
Yeah, so I'm reading what they're kind of sending to her. And so, yes, you know, look for these things. When you feel buzzing, tingling, vibration up in your head. Maybe you feel slightly dizzy for a moment, or almost like a high-ish sensation. That's the guides talking to you. So, then still your mind and just allow impressions to come through. Now, those first impressions that come through so fast that they're not your own conscious thoughts, that's what the messages are. And trust in that.
Yes, well, that's one thing that I've learned is the first information that comes through is the most valuable information. And to journal these things is really even more important because likely you won't get it again.
So when we look to the prophecies, don't take it as it's set in stone because we could still change it. And don't believe that it's source that's, determined that thou shalt suffer. No, source doesn't want you to suffer. Source is in you. So these prophecies, many times they are given, and you could look at them a couple of different ways. They could be obviously a warning. Sure, we could take it that way. Or they can be pre-programming so that you feel like it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Now, one thing we have gotten from the guides is that every time they do this, because this has been done so many times, you almost can't count how many times, how many Kali Yugas we've gone through these cycles. This doesn't mean that every single soul that's incarnated now is always going through this. New souls come in all the time. New souls break off from source all the time. So you have some souls that have been around, like when we're talking about the Devas and beings like the archangels, they've been around in some cases billions and billions of years. So they've been there, done that. And somebody else had said, why do I need to go to the Devas or even the archangels? Can I go directly to source? Yes, you could do whatever feels good to you, whatever works for you. With our own circumstance, I take great solace in that every time I call to them, they respond, and I feel their energy and their presence, and they lift me up and they calm me. If I'm stressed, if I'm struggling in any way, shape, or form, their energy comes through, and I feel better every single time than I did before. And also, I find clarity. Because again, these are beings that many times, many cases, they might be not just thousands of years older than you as far as your own personal soul, but they might be millions and even billions of years older and have gone through so much that they've seen everything, so, they have a much better knowledge base than many of us. And so, their thoughts, their opinions, their influences can be greatly appreciated. And, it's not that, they need us, so to speak. They're just benevolent and they care because in many cases, the souls that are incarnating in some way, shape, or form are smaller portions and aspects of them. Now, that's the thing to realize. Who is your highest self? Your highest self might be a being that's residing on 7th density, way above 5th density, where we're hoping to head to. And in many cases, it might be a being that's immensely well-known and powerful and has all sorts of knowledge and amazing abilities. And you yourself might be a small portion of that being's bigger soul, so to speak. And this is all part of what will end up being at some point in time a series of books that we'll do. I've been saying as soon as the grid goes down, we'll start the books. But the guys are like, no, start now. You need to start getting this into book form now.
Yeah,
so
the information is gonna get, it'll get lost. But we are basically, a little mini blueprint of a being that is much, much bigger, which it gives us all very unique abilities, So you wonder, where do my abilities come from? Why are these my strengths and these are my weaknesses? Well, if you learn who your highest self is, then maybe you'll have a better idea. So it's understanding yourself. It's self-realization.
That's it. And self-realization is the path of the Sanatana Dharma. And so whether you're more inclined to go into, say, a Buddhist aspect or study the Sanatana Dharma, or maybe Taoist, I would really encourage people that have only known the Western traditions to look into the East and, just get a different perspective, or go into the mystery traditions, because they ultimately lead back to the same thing. Mm-hmm. And, when we talk about the fact that in your microbiome, you are a universe. There's billions of beings alive in you right now. If we look under a microscope and we see, things like bacteria and protozoa and amoebas, and we look at them as little squiggly things, they might be picturing themselves as driving in their cars on the way back from work to their home because they want to go watch a UFC fight in a rush.
Yeah.
Because they look to us like tiny little squiggly things, and, under a microscope, because they're so small, doesn't mean that that's what their own consciousness has created for them as their environment. Their consciousness might have created for them something even grander than what we see on Earth. And that's inside of you. And as we've said, we're all a cell in the body of Gaia, and Gaia is a cell in the body of something bigger. This whole universe is a cell in the body of something bigger. The creator of this universe is not necessarily the same creator as the creator of another universe. They could be different beings, and all those could be residing in the body of something much larger. Just as there's so many things residing in you, as above, so below, as within, so without. This is how it works. This is how creation works. And just as your parents got together and they created you, so to speak, well, they didn't really create you. They created your body by their union. You already were. This is when Yeshua was talking, and he said, before Abraham was, I am. Because, yes, his consciousness was before Abraham was in a physical body. And they were going to stone him for that because of their own ignorance. And it was their own ignorance. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, they didn't have that knowledge or wisdom. But Yeshua did. And he was just trying to teach them how it really works. It's the same thing in a spiritual sense. And so there could be beings that come together and decide, you know what, we're going to have an incarnation together. There might be 4 beings. Let's, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Quote the Beatles, right? Or any 4 beings. Let's say it could literally be the case that you might have beings that you might recognize as, say, Thor, right? From one tradition, get together with, some African deity that you don't even know the name, never even heard of them before, and another being that we might view as a deity from a different culture. You might have 4 different deities, quote unquote, get together and say, let's have a 3D experience together. And they all send little portions of their own soul to inhabit the same body. So that person is going to be a new unit of consciousness taken from 4 different oversouls that we might all be looking at as mythological gods, so to speak, in order to, have a certain purpose and influence on the world. This actually does happen. And this is an amazing realization. And these mergers of these energies create a new soul that will end up always being. And it's going to go on its own unique path, just like, your parents, their union created your body, and that's you. It's not like your body goes back and splits up into 2 different, physical breakdowns that return to your parents. No, it doesn't work that way. That's your vehicle from that point on. And so that new soul will again have more incarnations, more than likely, and grow from there.
Right. Yeah. There's just so much that we got to get into a book so we don't lose it, because we're not going to learn this stuff from any book read that's written today. We're just not going to learn it. They're not going to tell us about how things work and who we are, because if we knew how powerful we are, none of this we would not be able to be controlled in any way.
Exactly. And, this is what we've gotten from the guides, and also the guides have, as they're giving us these teachings, you know, it's also kind of a soul cellular remembrance. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there was one person made a comment in regards to like race and to, you know, say anything about any races at all in a negative sense is really kind of, it's so short-sighted, you know, because again, these are all just vehicles. They're all vehicles. And chances are, you know, again, most people have been both male and female in different incarnations to gain new perspectives. And very likely, like Cindy and I, you know, we both have, if we go back to the video Thanksgiving, we have European ancestry, but we also have Native American ancestry. Mm-hmm. So, you know, truly, again, the vehicles we're in, you know, they're mixed. Mm-hmm. All of us have so many different ancestries and even mixed cellular star ancestries.
Yes.
You know, so it's this division, we really have to rise above all these petty divisions. Mm-hmm. And start to recognize, you know, we could view ourselves as one human race, but let's even look bigger than that. Mm-hmm. Let's look even beyond that.
Yeah, see yourself as you know, the great being that you are, the big being that you are, so you can start to gain that persona, and that radiates all throughout your life, throughout your world, and your life goes so much better when you claim who you are, when you claim your greatness. You know, this human body that we are in has so many bells and whistles that they wouldn't dare tell us about, but it's really important that we explore and find out our gifts and find out who we are.
Yes, because who you are might absolutely blow your doors in.
Right.
It might, when you realize just how powerful you are, and you, unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, we have this veil that kind of hides it from us, but we wouldn't have the same experiences if we knew exactly, you know, who we really, really are and just how powerful we really, really are. Our friend had done some channeling. Our friend Dr. Joe would be doing a video with us upcoming shortly. He did some channeling with a wonderful channel. Her name was Terry. And they channeled the Anunnaki. And the Anunnaki came through and said, because he said, what are you going to do when you get back here? And they said, well, it depends on, you know, what we find when we get there. And they said, we want you to realize, you know, just as you look at insects, we look at you that way. And yet, you know, as Joe said, the reality is they're stuck on a lower level than we are. So who is really the insects, and right, who really needs to have pity for who?
Well, it's a change in perspective. You have to see it for what it is. So.
Technologically, yes, they are ahead of where we apparently are. However, spiritually, they can't go where we can go.
Yeah, we dust them.
Yeah, there's no comparison. There's no comparison. They're right now basically on a dead-end street, stuck with nowhere to go. Mm-hmm. Until they, you know, find love in their hearts again and stop trying to impose their will on others. You know, they're basically not going to get anywhere.
Right.
So thank you guys for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. We couldn't do it without your support there too. Do check out, and we want to thank you for your support over on Medicinal Foods, both for us and also for the wonderful people over there. Use coupon code EEA and get an extra 5% off your order. And as you fill up your cart, you could get up to 25% off and free shipping. Lots of good stuff. Nothing but great feedback from everybody that uses Medicinal Foods. As always, guys, may Source bless. Absolutely. God with the big G. And namaste.
Namaste.